Hey everyone, and welcome to Lizzy Out Loud. I'm so excited you're here, whether it's your first time or you've been with me since the beginning. And by the beginning, I mean the first episode. Welcome back. I'm Lizzy, and this is the space where we're going to be real, raw, and heal together. So, the point of this podcast is to not disregard what got you to the point of healing. I want to talk about when was the moment you realized maybe I need this, maybe I do need to heal. What did it take to finally say, okay, I'm ready? Even for everyone who's doing great in your spiritual life, I want to hear how you got there. Because here's the thing, so many people think God is like a fairy godfather, and the moment you say a salvation prayer, everything is fine. But that couldn't be further from the truth, because what happens when you're not fine? What happens when you don't have joy or peace? And there's so much deep work that happens after you come to faith. I feel like the salvation prayer is the easiest part. And that's what I want to explore here. We're going to have people on this podcast telling their stories, whether they're spiritually mature or still figuring things out, or whether they're not even Christian at all. I want all of it because this is real life. It's not sunshine and butterflies every single day, not even for Christians, shocking as that might sound. Of course, we celebrate the good things too, because life can be beautiful. But here on Lizzy Out Loud, we're not going to skip over what it took to get there, because someone listening might be going through exactly what you've been through, and they don't know how to find their way out yet. So that's what we're going to do here. We're real, we're true, we're raw, and we're joyful too. So, if it's your first time here, welcome. Grab your coffee, your tea, your protein shake, or whatever it is you love to drink, and come sit with me. And listen, guys, in no way am I on here telling people that you can't be happy or that you should just sit and dwell in your feelings and emotions forever. No. What I'm doing, or what I'm trying to accomplish, is that we get to the root of why you behave in certain ways that might not be healthy. Even if it feels okay to you, it might not be okay for others around you, or vice versa, and definitely not okay to God. And also, I want us, you, me, anyone who wants to tag along, to get to the best relationship possible with Jesus. And in order to do that, we need to dig into why do we behave in certain ways? Why does your guardian react the way it does? What is it trying to cover up? And then we want to start catching ourselves in those moments when we're about to fall into old patterns. Because a huge part of healing is becoming self-aware enough to ask, am I coping right now? Am I avoiding something? Is this really how I want to respond? Basically, what we're doing here is trying to become the best versions of ourselves, because you can only keep up those survival patterns for so long. Some people go on and on saying, I'm fine, I'm fine. I'm one of those people too, until they hit their breaking point. And we're definitely wanting to avoid the breaking point. And if you're there already, please bear with me. We'll get through it together. Something terrible doesn't have to happen for you to start doing the work. I don't know if you guys watch Kitchen Nightmares, but there was this one episode where Gordon Ramsay was in this Indian restaurant and it was absolute chaos. And also, I'm only saying that it's an Indian restaurant for anyone who wants to go and watch the episode, not for any other reason. Anyways, so he says in the episode, does someone have to die in this place for one of you effers to get a grip? And that's like, every time I think about this idea of waiting for something terrible to happen, that clip lives rent free in my mind. I might even post it on Instagram actually for you guys to see. It's hilarious. Because listen, something doesn't have to go terribly wrong for you to decide, maybe I need to work through something. Yeah, and I'm still at that point sometimes where I ask myself, what needs to happen for you to get a grip? Yeah, so basically, we're here to fix the root, not just the surface. So, before I get into today's story, and we're already far along, anyways, I want to pick up a little from episode 1. If you listen to the first episode, you know a bit of my story already, how I've been a Christian most of my life, but really met Jesus in a whole new way after losing my boyfriend unexpectedly. Like I said, that loss shattered me. It brought me to the end of myself and straight into a deeper encounter with God. And again, bringing it back to what I just said, this is actually the opposite of, that I did something wrong. Then that happened. That couldn't be further from the truth. This is just actually showing how beautiful God is, that He used something so terrible to bring me back to Him. I shared last time how it's okay to tell God how you really feel, even if you're angry, even if you're yelling. He's big enough to handle it. And actually, research backs this up too. Studies show that suppressing emotions can increase stress and even physical symptoms. So, being honest, even with God, is part of how we heal emotionally. I also talked about something I'm super passionate about, inner healing, like you've heard for the 1000th time. We all have different parts inside of us. Some parts carry pain, some parts try to protect us, and that's where this part of me came in. The part I call my guardian. My guardian jumps in anytime things feel too painful. It doesn't even have to be pain specifically, it can be any strong emotion. She shuts down my emotional side and tries to keep me moving forward, even when my heart is breaking. And that's the sad thing. I've seen it twice in 1 week where I've seen people say, I'm fine. And just like me, I'm fine. And then just a little bit comes out of what they're dealing with, and it's like breaking down and crying like a baby. And I'm not saying this in any way to be condescending, but I could see that like in myself too. And it's just, oh my soul, to see that like someone going through that is wow. And that's what essentially happens is your guardian keeps pushing your emotional side down and your heart is breaking, but you're not dealing with it because your guardian is like, nope, we don't want to feel that pain. But anyways, back then, before I started this journey, my guardian didn't know Jesus. She was trying to protect me in the only way she knew how, by shutting down anything that hurt me too much or that was just like too much to feel. So today, I want to talk about how inner healing doesn't make you perfect. It just makes you aware. And it doesn't just make you aware, it also definitely brings you closer to God, because every part of you now gets to meet Jesus. And it definitely sounds crazy, like, how can I know Jesus, but there's like a part of me that doesn't? And again, I think I mentioned this in the first episode too. You know that you love Jesus with all your heart, but there is a part of you that keeps on just going back to old things, and there's a part of you that won't let him into certain things. I don't know, there was someone that said something about when they are going through something very difficult, they are on their knees praying, including Jesus, doing everything that they can, spiritually. But the moment that things start going good, they forget about him. And that's actually the opposite for me, or was the opposite for me. When I am going through something very difficult, I don't include him. Now I've learned to do it, but there was a part of me that never included him because of my disappointments in the past with him. Those were my experiences, or actually my guardian's experiences, that he wasn't there. So every time something happened, I would pray, but not really include God at all. It's like, Lord, please help me, and that's about it. Which is not bad, but to have the full experience of Jesus there, you really need to include him in every moment of your life. And yeah, that was my thing, is when something was going terribly wrong in my life, I would not include him. But when things were going very well, I would include him in that, because for me it was like, this is happening because of you. You did this for me, and I'm going to praise you. I'm going to include you. I'm going to love you. But then there was the part of me when I'm down that, oh, well, I didn't experience him in the other moments when I was hurting. So what's going to be different this time? And that was my guardian. And back to what I said about healing not making you perfect and that it makes you aware. Even though I've been working on this for a while, I still fall into old patterns. I still have moments where my guardian tries to step in and run the show. And this past week, I found myself slipping into an old habit. So I'm trusting God for something specific, very specific, quite a few things actually. And I'm still trusting Him for it. But the problem I have is that I always want to be assured about everything. If you know God, you know that He's not always going to give you the kind of step by step assurance you're looking for. For me, I want like a burning bush moment. And I'll actually get into that in a minute. So yeah, again, I want like step by step. What am I supposed to do? What are you gonna do? You know, I even say this to God all the time. Like, I know you're gonna do it, but when are you gonna do it? How are you gonna do it? What are you going to use? Where do I need to be? What do I need to do? I just have so many questions. So this week I was praying and praying, and honestly, I feel like I started sounding like a broken record, even to myself. So I can imagine how I sounded to God. I was praying so specifically for how I wanted things to happen. And every time I ended my prayer with, but your will be done, even though deep down I still wanted my will. That was just like, now that I'm looking at it and actually being honest, it was not even, did I want His will to be done in that moment? No, I wanted my will to be done in that moment. And as the week went on, I kept doing something that felt like, maybe this is how God is going to do it for me. And this is like where I want us to be so careful. This is where discernment comes in, where something, it will present itself like, maybe this is the way God will do it, but it's actually you creating a plan B. I'm definitely someone who always needs a plan B. And when I sat down and really thought about why I do that, it's because growing up, and this is another thing with when you're doing the inner healing, you'll definitely start picking up like self-awareness of, okay, so I just did this. Why do I do that? And then it will definitely take you back to like even moments in your childhood where you're like, oh, this and this happened, so this is why I respond in this way. And so I got that it's because growing up, I experienced a lot of moments where people told me I'm going to do this and they didn't. So from a young age, I learned, okay, in case this person doesn't come through, I'd better have like a backup plan. I need to, I need to have something in case. And now that's not a terrible thing in some parts of life. But when it comes to God, you can't do that. You cannot live like that, because having a plan B can sometimes mean you're not fully trusting God. And that's exactly like what I got from God. And it was like a very gentle tap, like, you're doing it again, you're doing it again. And it's actually something psychology talks about a lot. Studies show that uncertainty is one of the biggest triggers for anxiety. And I don't think I need to tell you that, because you probably know that. Our brains crave certainty because it makes us feel safe. But faith often means choosing to trust God without knowing every detail. And again, I kept doing it, and I felt God telling me, and it was like it's like explaining to a child. I felt like his child. And that's so hard for me to not be certain about things. It's like, if I don't have some sort of assurance, I just can't. I can't. So this week, God was gently saying, like I said, it was like a tap. You're doing it again. You're trying to control this. And then it also felt like He was telling me, and it actually, I felt like I really heard it. When you're doing this, it shows that you don't trust me 100%. You don't trust that I'm going to come through. And honestly, I realized he was definitely right. Even while I was doing my plan B, I still felt stressed. I was still thinking, like, oh my gosh, I have to get all this done by a certain date. This needs to happen by this time. I was trying so hard to make sure my way would work out. But here's the thing, sometimes the very thing that looks like God opening a door is just your plan B disguised as faith. So I stopped and I said, okay, God, I'm leaving this 100% in your hands. I'm not going to do anything else to help you. And sometimes this is also like the other part. Don't confuse your plan B with your works. There's certain things that you need to do your part and God needs to do his part, or God is going to do his part. And then there's other things that's just your plan B, so don't do it. Some things you just have to leave in God's hands. And already part of the situation started resolving itself without me having to do anything. Like things just started working out. How? I don't know. God knows how he did it, but it just worked out. And that part that's not done yet, I'm not stressed about it anymore. I'm not even like worried, and it's like a big thing, and I'm not even concerned. I'm just chilling and waiting because I surrendered it. And something else I wanted to share too, that happened that same week, that really hit me hard. A few friends and I, or two friends and I, were volunteering in Durham, and we met this lady who told us her story. And the thing is, so there's the friend that I told you about, Pauline, who I'm doing the inner healing sessions with, and she's always the one to be like, wow, I want to know this person's story. And she went up to the lady and she's like, I want to know your story. And she was basically telling us that she used to have a very good job. And I'm not telling her whole story, I'm just saying like the part that stood out for me. And honestly, in my opinion, she was well off and she felt like God told her to quit that job. By the way, I'm not telling anyone, I'm not saying quit your job. I'm I'm telling the story that stood out to me for the week. So if you are planning on quitting your job for some or other reason and you're not sure, you better be dang sure that God told you that. And please don't say that I told you to go and quit your job, because I'm not telling you to do that. Anyways, so she felt like God was telling her to quit her job, and even her friends and family were like telling her, like, are you sure that's God? That doesn't sound right. That doesn't sound like God. But she said she went back to work and just didn't feel at peace anymore. And that's how she knew it was really God speaking. So she quit, and now she's living every day in full trust that God will provide. And I was so shocked because I was like, who can just do that? Like, quit your job and then have full faith in God that you're not going to lack anything. And this is how we as Christians are like, I trust in God, I trust in God, but there's still that doubting side of you that's like, but how is this gonna happen, or how's that gonna happen, you know? And I was just like, wow, you know? And she even was like crying when she was telling us about it, and I could just sense like how hard it is. And she was like really crying. And you know what? It's so important to say that trusting God is not always easy. It's not. It's very, very hard, because you just don't know how it's going to happen. And we're human. We always have that, like, you need to have some sort of assurance. And people sometimes make it look like, oh, just trust God and it's all good. But it's not that simple, especially if you're someone like me who needs assurance. The world might call it crazy to quit your job without knowing how you're going to survive. But she said, somehow every day I have something to eat. I'm sorted every day. And that really reminded me of the verse, if he dresses the lilies, won't he clothe you? Which has been super special to me, because for some reason lilies remind me of my boyfriend too. But in any case, so I guess what I want to leave you with today is this. Healing doesn't mean you're perfect. It doesn't mean that you are a problem and that now you need to be, fixed. You do need to be fixed, but it's just going to make you a better person. Everyone needs healing, whether they like to admit it or not. It means you're aware, and being aware is how you start making different choices. Whether it's trusting God without a plan B or letting your guardian step aside so you can actually feel your emotions. Inner healing is daily work. It's about letting Jesus meet every part of you, even the ones you think are too messy or too broken, because they're not. So, yeah, that's where I'm at. I'm still learning, I'm still healing, and I'm so grateful to have you here with me on this journey. If today resonated with you, or if you have any questions you'd love me to talk about in the future episodes, please reach out. I'd love to hear from you. And thank you for sitting with me today. And remember, you are not too much to be loved, and you are never, never, ever, ever too broken to be healed. We'll talk to you soon.